Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. The concept of public service. A noble concept of dedicating oneself to the people, not to the pursuit of personal benefit, wealth, luxury, or greed, but to others, to society, to the people. A noble concept indeed, but are we naive to believe that that's what's really going on here, at least in terms of the majority? No one's going to discredit the fact that many people do take public service seriously as a call to action to truly serve the people, but it seems as though the majority pretend to dedicate their lives to you, to everyone else, to the people, but really in the end it's nothing but me, career advancement, and expanding personal wealth. And today, the infamous Dr. Fauci is back in the headlines, back in the news. A selfless public servant is what the Democrats would have you believe. A man who is to be revered as being the leader that everyone needed throughout the dark times of the last 2 years. Again, is what the Democrats tell you. But a man who, while supposedly serving the people, somehow ballooned his personal net worth by double. Dr. Fauci, in the last 2 years, has supposedly added $5 million to his net worth. And from my understanding, that seems to be after taxes. Something is not adding up here, folks, because with these public officials, we know exactly how much money they're supposed to make. Dr. Fauci is in fact the highest paid man or person in government, but a $5 million net worth increase in the last 2 years, something's fishy, folks. And so let's take a look into the reporting on this issue. We've got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, take a look at this from the Conservative Brief. Fauci added $5 million in wealth during pandemic. Net worth skyrockets to $12.6 million. Dr. Tony Fauci is by far the highest paid federal official, and he has grown incredibly wealthy on a taxpayer-funded salary during his 50-plus years in government. According to Open the Books, an organization that focuses on government spending transparency, Fauci, head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases since Ronald Reagan's first term in the 1980s, grew his personal wealth by some $5 million during the recent pandemic to top out around $12.6 million. Last night, our auditors at OpenTheBooks.com received Dr. Anthony Fauci's fiscal year 2021 financial disclosures from his government position. Excuse me, but I have absolutely no idea how to pronounce this last name. Let's try it, but I'll butcher it. Andrzejewski, hopefully I got it right, founder of the organization, wrote on his Substack. The documents contain a wealth of previously unknown information. For example, the Fauci's household net worth now exceeds $12.6 million, up $5 million from 2019 through 2021, he added. Dr. Fauci has made $5 million in the last 2 years, and they're calculating it as his net worth, so I'm assuming that's after taxes, although it's hard to tell. A lot of it might be subject to capital gains tax if it's held in investments, but either way, how is this possible if Dr. Fauci was earning roughly $456,000 a year during that time? Well, that's in 2021. I'm not exactly sure in 2019 or in 2020 what his salary was, whether he got a promotion or an increase in salary as the pandemic hit and he was put in a position of power there. His net salary after taxes and after expenses will take a decent chunk out of the $450,000 that he's earning, but that isn't anywhere close to making over $2 million a year in his government position. I mean, for Pete's sakes, is this guy the greatest investor of all time? I know real estate prices were up, I know stocks boomed, but this guy's portfolio basically doubled. It's almost like he made something like an 80% return. How is that possible? What does this guy own? What is this guy doing? How is he making all of this money? But the better question is, how are all of these privileged government officials and government people making all of this money behind closed doors? And I say the word privileged, not in the leftoid white privilege and check your privilege style, but in the sense that government officials are privy to, have access to privileged information. They know what's going on at a much deeper level than we do, and they know before we know. And the question is, does the privileged position and privileged information have an impact, or is it connected to the absolute explosion of wealth that we see with all of these government characters? And the overall lack of transparency is probably the most frustrating thing. You know, people ask themselves, how is Maxine Waters worth what she's worth? We know her level of competence. Maxine Waters, again, has made some really good money throughout the years through her government position, but to a certain extent, it's humble. She shouldn't be extremely wealthy. When you're making $170,000 or just that salary for inflation moving backwards in time, how does your net worth all of a sudden reach tens upon tens of millions of dollars? If I'm not mistaken, Maxine Waters' net worth is within that range, but I'm not going to say for sure because we don't know the exact number. I mean, for Pete's sakes, we covered it not too long ago. She owns like a $6 million home in California. You know how expensive it is to maintain a $6 million home? How is it that Maxine Waters can do something like that? How is it that Nancy Pelosi is in the position that she's in? And why is it that so many of these people, like Nancy Pelosi and Dianne Feinstein, for instance, are married to investors and hedge fund people with incredible track records of success when it comes to making trades? The American people deserve transparency. How did Dr. Fauci make every single dollar? What happened? Same thing with Nancy Pelosi and the rest of these figures. And let's go back on Maxine Waters, for instance. How is it that Maxine Waters can justify funneling hundreds of thousands of dollars to her daughter using official campaign funds? There is something that stinks, and the American people deserve transparency. And of course, I'm focusing on Democrats, but it's not just Democrats. I've seen a lot of people mention people like Dan Crenshaw, for instance, whose stock portfolio has also skyrocketed since he joined Congress. There needs to be transparency on how these government officials are making money, who's paying them, who's feeding them information, what stocks are they buying, what are they doing? Because it's not just about the money that they're making, it's about the possible influence. The question is, within the world of politics, who is paying these people? Where are they making their money? It's not an issue of privacy anymore when you're supposedly a public servant. It's an issue of potential corruption, and the American people's questions should be answered. There shouldn't be any confusion. There should be absolute transparency, especially over everything that's transpired over the last 2 years related to Dr. Anthony Fauci. And Lord, I just hope that if Republicans regain the House, they have the spine to look into these matters, because it's completely despicable that the guy who was in charge of taking away so much from so many by recommending policies that absolutely obliterated the middle class, what a slap in the face it must be to have everything taken away from you, to be suffering financially, to be getting absolutely crushed, and the guy who's the face of it all ballooned his net worth by over $5 million, almost doubling it during the time that you lost everything. It's despicable, and the people deserve answers. All these government officials and all of these media folk who look down on you, all these people who told you to shut up and stop complaining and, quote, do your part for the last 2 years. Well, it was very easy for them to say that, because trust me when I say this, people working in media made a metric F-ton throughout the last 2 years. I know this because I have a direct view into ad rates. They were making millions while people were suffering and telling you to shut up, sit down, and take it in response to you losing everything. The Republican Party needs to rise to the occasion on this one. Honestly, I'm not so sure they will, because they're obviously part of this whole cabal, at least a good chunk of them. But I guess all I'm really saying here is that the American people deserve answers, and I hope they get it. That's what I got for you guys, though. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel if you guys are up for joining the community. I'm going to get back to work. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.